Hey, good day and welcome back. I'm Alan Burrish and welcome back to a second try at this. Again, a little background that's some folks in my life. I do these videos for a congregation, for a church, about the gospel reading or the readings for any given Sunday. And some people in my life have said, I really like your videos, but I don't understand all the names and places and texts and liturgies and rhythms of the church. Would you think about doing videos without all that kind of code word, without all that kind of language and ritual? And so this is my try at that. This is a second try at that. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for the first time at this. Thank you again if you want to share this, because I think the good news of who Jesus is, and I think the good news of what God is about in our world is really important. And I think the church has somehow sometimes co-opted that good message as if it belongs only to us in the church, those who sit in church pews on Sunday mornings, or as I did last night on a Saturday night. We're in the season of Epiphany, and that's only important because the church Epiphany simply means aha, or uncovered, or wow, this is who Jesus is, born of Christmas, born of shepherds arriving, and angels announcing, and kings coming with gold and frankincense and myrrh. And so the season right after Christmas is to say, who is this guy? Who is this person born that we should worship him? And so we get in this chapter of Luke, Jesus returns after his baptism, after his being tempted in the wilderness by Satan. He returns to his home synagogue in Nazareth, and he's given the scroll from Isaiah. And I want you to know that Jesus takes the scroll, and Luke winks at us and tells us that Jesus breaks it open. It's a word that's pretty violent. It's a word that's pretty unfixable, that Jesus breaks open the scroll in a way that it can't be put back together. Not physically. Jesus didn't do physical harm to some papyrus, some paper. But he opens the scroll in a way to say, this is who I am, and this is what I've come to do, and this is who I've come to be, and this is what I've come to fulfill, and this is that all of life, by my doing those things, that life won't ever be the same. And so he takes this scroll from Isaiah, a prophecy that the people of God have been waiting for hundreds of years to be fulfilled, and he reads, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captive and recovery of sight to the blind, and to let the oppressed go free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And then before he gives it back, or before he sits down, he says, today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. As if to say, all these promises now are laid on me, and they're good. Their good is done. That Jesus says, this is what I've come for. This is whom God seeks, those oftentimes whom we don't seek. The poor and the oppressed and the prisoner. And then he says at the end, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. There's kind of a sense that every 7 years or every 70 years there was this year of Jubilee, that all of your debts would be forgiven, both monetary debts, but also your debts to one another. Our debts to one another would be forgiven, that if I have offended you, you were somehow obligated to forgive me. You were somehow obligated to release me from that debt of offense. And so Jesus is saying, that's what I've come to do. I've come to make connection. I've come to have relationship with you, you who hear these words, you who have been waiting for this promise to be fulfilled, but also those outside the promise. Outside those outside of us who have been waiting and wondering and wishing for the promise to be fulfilled. The poor, the oppressed, the prisoner, the blind, whomever, however we exclude people from us as a community. So all I want to say to you, all I wanted to say to the congregation, to the church, is that let's be really purposeful. Let's be really specific about making sure that we're motivated to move up and in outside of our own selves and reconnect in relationship to those who need connection, to those who desire connection from us. So here's where I want to go. I mentioned last month, my last video, that I've been reading a book. It's by a man named Richard Rohr. The book is called Falling Upward. It's a great book. He's a Catholic Franciscan, but he uses all sorts of resources and all sorts of disciplines to come to the place where he comes. One of his quotes is from T.S. Eliot, and it's where I want to go next. Old men ought to be explorers. Here and there does not matter. We must be still and still moving into another intensity for another union, a deeper communion. And so Rohr wants to say that the very meaning of life, this is after a number of chapters, that the very meaning of life that often only happens in the second part of life, because the first task of life is something different, that the real meaning of life is connection. That the real meaning of life is really deep, in fact, deeper, more meaningful connection with those around us. So that in T.S. Eliot's poem, that we as old men, because other things have fallen away from our tasks and priorities, that we should know that the task of our older days, our later days, is to make these connections that are deeper, profoundly more deeper than before. And so that's all I want to say to you, that as you move through your life, in the midst of days that are busy and ups and downs, in the midst of days that have joys and sorrows and frustrations and too much, that you make it a priority to connect with people in two ways. Allow people to be connected to you that feed you, that energize you, that heal you. I've come to a new place in life that if people that wish to be attached to me are harmful to me, are detrimental to me, or suck energy away from me, I just don't need that. And so I have freed myself to be able to say no to some people, that relationship just isn't going to work for me anymore. But here's the other thing, that we're very intentional about then being connected to people that are important in our life in the deepest way possible. Time, space, words, meals together. That Jesus wants to say, I've come to be connected to these people, and in fact be connected in a way that they are freed up from themselves. And I want to say to you that you have the exact same power, that you have the exact same effect on people, that your words and your love and your touch and your presence is able to free them from themselves, is able to free them from their past, is able to free them from their regrets, is able to free them from their brokenness. Now, we all have to tend our own stuff, but it's really only in being connected to one another, and that we have a chance to be honest with one another, that we're able to tend to those things and reach a deeper communion with others around us and with ourselves. So, here's where I ended last month, out of Rohr. So get ready for some new freedom, some dangerous permission, some hope from nowhere, some unexpected happiness, some stumbling stones, some radical grace, and some new and pressing responsibility for yourself and for our suffering world. When you're connected to somebody else, you say exactly the same thing to them. That you give them permission to experience grace and forgiveness and love and wholeness and joy in a different way than they've ever experienced before, by the fact that you've come and taken your place with them. That there's something about being intentional about accompanying somebody in the worst days of their life, or in the ordinary days of their life, the mundane days of their life, that you have a chance to change the world, that you have a chance to change their world. So, I say again to you, this Jesus who comes and says, this is who I am, this is what I've come to do, this is what I've come to accomplish, to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim release to the captive, recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free. Go free. Be free. and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, you get to do that too. By simply saying of someone in your life, I'm going to be really intentional. This is who I am. This is what I've come to do. This is who I am to be. I am to be connected to this one. So, again, get ready for some new freedom, some dangerous permission, some hope from nowhere, some unexpected happiness, some stumbling stones, some radical grace, and some new and pressing responsibility for yourself and for our suffering world. Thanks.